Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We have Dr. Nekky Jamal here today, and he's from Canada. Nekky, for those of you who don't know, runs an awesome third molar extraction online course that I've actually done. So it was super valuable, and he's one of the first online courses I actually interacted with, and I thought that he executed it great. So I wanted to talk to him a bit about that, and also about his practice in Canada and how things differ from, across the pond, as they say. So nice to meet you, Nekky.
Nice to meet you, my man. I'm excited to be here, and I think what you're doing here is wicked. I've listened to some of your podcasts, and
Thank you.
I'm honored to be a guest. So let's get into it.
No, we're honored to have you, mate. So, yes, the online. I think that's a good place to start. What was the influence? What got you to set that up? When did you set it up officially? And was the timing perfect with COVID, with the lockdowns?
Oh, man. There's loaded questions there. So I got into teaching because I found that no one was sharing their failures, and I got super, I was discouraged all the time, because you go on Instagram and you see just these beautiful cases and no one's sharing their shit, like no one's sharing their crap. And it happens. And unfortunately it happens more than we like to admit it. So I started teaching, and people started inviting me to share my lectures. And I started just doing webinars, and then one thing led to a next. They're like, "Nah, I wish I could learn from you. I wish I could learn your courses, or learn how you take out teeth." And I was like, "Man, why would everyone want to learn from me? I've made more mistakes than everyone out there combined, and yet people want to learn from me." And I don't know. It just started, and then with the COVID lockdown, I made a studio, which I'm in right now, and I was like, man, how can I share this with the world? And I started making videos. People started liking them. So, and then I put my mind in my computer, and I wrote it all down. I probably could make a textbook out of everything that I wrote down, and then I turned it into videos and lots of like clinical videos and sharing all my mistakes. So, my goal was to help one person. If I could help one person, it would have been all worth it. And it's cool how far it's spread across the world, and I'm still having fun with it, and I'm still making, new content, and we'll get into all that, but it's just been so much fun that it allowed me to connect with you. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't make all that stuff, right?
It's so weird, man. Like I think it's cool that like the industry's modernizing a bit, because we can learn a lot from each other. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. There'll be a lot of people with value to give, and there's so much to unpack there with what you just said.
You're totally right, though, because whether you live in the UK or in Canada, we're both going to break our patient's tuberosity. We're both going to break root tips. We're both going to have infection that we're not going to know how to manage. So why don't we learn from each other? People are still the same around the world, and we're still doing the same things, but there's just not this great portal of information. And I don't care what you say, you can't learn anything off of YouTube and like trying to piece together info here and there. It's just inconsistent. So I just wanted to create all of it in one place and just be the most badass resource of third molar extractions out there.
Well, that definitely comes through, because quality is definitely a word I would use. You've been extremely thorough in your approach. Is that something that you've always been like in just general, or is that something that really you got as a passion project, gets it out of you?
No, man, I have a problem actually, and I battle with it. And it's that I need to know as much as I can about a subject, and I can't let it go, and it irritates me. Like right now, I have to give a lecture in Vancouver at a huge dental conference, and there'll be 500 people there, and I have to talk about, extractions and stuff. But then I just get down these wormholes, and I'm looking into like anesthetics, and I've probably read like 60 papers this morning, like
wow,
of just like, hey, what causes this? And then I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Let me read into it more. And I just get down these downward spirals that I'm sure no one even cares about, but Like I'm just so curious that I need to know as much as I can about a certain subject. And if I want to be able to share that info, I want to be able to answer your questions, because I bet you we have the exact same questions. And so why are we both going down these spirals? Let me just do it for you. And until I can, like, itch that curiosity need, I feel like I'm not done. And I feel like I just go nuts until I answer those questions.
These are the finer details, though, that make your course worthwhile,
Yeah,
it's
thanks, man.
those little tips and tricks and things that you've probably gone down a rabbit hole to discover.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean?
Geez, just today, like, why does, do you guys use articaine in London or in England?
Yeah.
So why does articaine work better than lidocaine? We all know it does, but why?
Well, what some lecturer told me once is that it diffuses through the bone better than lidocaine does, but I don't know whether he was right.
But why? But why?
I don't know.
This is how my brain works. I'm like, why does that happen? And then you get down into it. Oh, it's because of the lipid solubility and the protein binding characteristics on that nerve, and that articaine is going to stick around so much more, even though the half-life of articaine is way less than lidocaine. And it just goes in my head, and I'm like, I just need to find out why. And I just love dentistry so much. And if I can understand the why of things happen, it makes me want to, makes me do it in daily practice. So I don't know if you resonate with that, but I think I get a little crazy about it.
No, I think the sign of a good clinician is always going to be some level of obsessive personality.
Yeah.
I definitely have that as well. I probably direct it in slightly different ways. But yeah, and look, I know people, there's one guy who springs to mind who, like, on New Year's Eve sent us all a PDF of a book he's reading, like an implant book. And I'm like,
yeah,
God, does this guy ever switch off?
Yeah, it's funny though, because I don't think a lot of patients understand how much dentists care about their job. They don't see that. They think we're all trying to hurt them, or we're in it for the wrong reasons. But I don't know physicians that go home that are on YouTube and on Facebook learning about different things, hearing podcasts, and we just get so obsessed about it. And I don't know, I just love being a dentist, and I hope my passion for dentistry comes out, because I think we have the best job in the world. We have so much power to create change amongst people, bring people's confidence up. And I just want to be the best dentist that I can. And if that means me going down these crazy spirals and chasing these rabbits down their holes, like, I just do it, man.
What was the start for you then? So how did you get into dentistry? Because it's, the passion's coming off you, I can tell. You love it. So where did that come from?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2009. So, I guess I'm almost 14 years out right now. In grade 8, in grade 9, my dad, we didn't have any money growing up. And he took out a loan to give me, to give me the most powerful thing in the world. And that's confidence. And when my braces came off, man, I was walking like 2 inches taller everywhere I went. I could not stop smiling. And before then, man, I had these gaps between my teeth. I'm sure you've heard of the expression summer teeth, summer here, summer there. Yeah, that was me, man. It was just all over the place. And look how big my teeth are. It's like, it's not like you can miss them, right? And so as soon as I got those braces off, I was like, man, how cool would it be to create that change in someone else's life? It's pretty funny though, because as soon as I finished dental school, the number one thing I swore not to do is orthodontics, because I just found it too boring. But I agree with you on that one. It's so, oh God, I'm an instant satisfaction kind of guy. Like, I want to know, I want to do something, get the result. That's why I love taking out teeth. I want to do something, get the result. Braces, man, or Invisalign, that's like a 2-year process. I don't have patience for that.
So, the setup in Canada, I've got cousins in Canada, and one of them did pharmacy. She just finished pharmacy recently. It was quite a long-winded process, because obviously here, we go to dental school and we do 5 years and we do a training year. But for you guys, it's a little bit of a more of a process, isn't it, to get there? And it's very, very expensive as well, isn't it?
It's expensive and it's difficult to get into. And did you know in dentistry in Canada, it's more difficult to get into dentistry than it is to medicine. Like it's one of the most, it's one of the most competitive, positions.
I think it's similar. It's similar here as well.
Oh, is it? Oh, I didn't know that.
I think the reason for that is there's only, from last time I was aware of this, which was quite a long time ago, there were a limited amount of dental schools.
Yep.
And there were more medical schools. So that was part of the reason why dental school was so hard to get into, is because there were less of them.
Yeah. And here, I don't know what it's like there, but we have to do a degree before we can get in. So I have a degree in molecular biology, and I use that 0% of my day. And I don't understand the value of that, except I got 4 years to grow up, I guess. And then the competitive process of getting into dentistry is during that time. And after 4 years, we get into dental school, and I guess the rest writes itself, right? Is that the same over there?
No, so we don't have to have a degree beforehand. So we can go pretty much from high school.
Really?
Yeah. So high school, what year do you finish high school there? Is it like?
I was 17 years old.
Yeah, so it's kind of a hybrid. So we do one extra year, so we finish at 18.
Oh, okay.
And then we can go direct into dental school. Now, there are some people I know who had to do a degree first because they missed the intake. They couldn't get in the first time, and then they had to do that and then swap over afterwards. Yeah. But you can finish, like if you're lucky, you could finish by the age of like 23.
Wow. Yeah, I graduated when I was 25, so that's not so much difference.
It's 2 year difference, I think, right? Probably because your guys' high school finishes 1 year, or like extended high school finishes 1 year earlier than us. So yeah, but the expense is something like, for you guys, I'm aware of it because obviously I've got family in Canada. Yeah. It's a massive undertaking. You've got to be really sure that you want to do it because...
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
The sunk cost there, if you didn't love it and you wanted to back out, man, Jesus.
Yeah, so 15 years ago, it was $32,000 a year at my school. Okay, so I think in pounds, that would be maybe 20,000 pounds.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Now, fast forward, 14 years later, today it's 55,000, I believe, to go. So these students are graduating, plus living, plus, all the fun that everyone has. These students are graduating with $400,000 worth of debt, and the banks just give it to them. And unfortunately, I'm sure the situation's the same in the UK. Inflation has gone through the roof. Interest rates are rising. Their interest payments have skyrocketed, and I don't know how these people are going to pay it off real quick, because then they want to go live in those suburbs. They don't want to live in the suburbs. They want to live in the city, right? They want to live right downtown Toronto or Calgary or Vancouver, and it's going to be hard to make a go of it. So I don't know what all the new grads do, man.
I mean, notoriously expensive as well to live in Canada, especially Vancouver and downtown Toronto and places like that. Wow. I think Vancouver is one of the most expensive places to live in the world, isn't it, in terms of buying property?
Oh, absolutely. Toronto and Vancouver are insane for property. Like, I always tell people, why don't you just live in a rural area, go there on the weekends? You can fly there anytime you want. You don't have to live there. But I was just in London. I took my dad to London last year, and I was saying the same thing. Who the hell can live here? Everything's so expensive. But the food there is so damn good. I'd go back any day.
Well, you got everything, haven't you? So basically, you qualified, was it, 2009, did you say?
2009, I finished up, yeah.
And then what kind of trajectory did you go on from there? Did you go into surgery straight away, or did you have a bit of a... No. So I wanted to own a practice. And I was like, okay, I want to own a practice. And in 2010, on the very first day of 2010, my partner and I, we bought a practice. And on January 4th, after Christmas break, the first day we open it up, I open up the door and there are inches of water on the ground. We had a massive flood. So I take out a huge multi-million-dollar loan to buy a practice that's flooded on the first day that we open. And it was just such a shocker. I still remember walking in and just tears are rolling down my face. Like, all my investment, everything I worked so hard for is already underwater before we've even seen a patient. And that was a good learning lesson for me.
but I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. But that was absolutely brutal. But yeah, no, we built the practice. We eventually cleaned up the flood, got the insurance claim, and then we slowly built the practice. And I started to know what I liked and what I didn't like, and made a lot of mistakes along the way, as you know, man. Dentistry is called practice for a reason, right?
That's pretty bold, man. So you went straight for the jugular, as they say. You went straight for the jugular.
Yeah.
But how does buying a practice work? So here, basically what I did was I set up what we call a squat practice, effectively a startup, right? So it's got no history. You just get a building, a site, build it, and then you just off to the races, do your marketing, all that stuff, and then build it over time, right? So that's one option, or you can buy an existing practice. Is there a similar kind of route there, or do you have to buy an existing? Yeah.
No. You either start from scratch, like as you said, a startup, or you buy an existing. The best part about buying an existing practice is you have cash flow already, right? And I think it's, you pay more, you're buying goodwill when you buy an existing practice, but you have cash flow from day one. So it's a different mentality than a startup. You're not hustling as hard to get those patients. At the end of the day, it's hard to know which one comes out on top. But I was more comfortable taking out a bigger loan and having existing cash flow, because at least it kept my mind busy that I was at least working towards paying off a loan versus trying to get patients and having empty holes in my schedule, trying to even pay off my equipment costs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So either way you go, it's a grind, but it was a great decision for me at the time. And I still, I still love going to work, and I practice 4 to 5 days a week right now, depending on teaching. But I'm still having fun, man. 15 years out, and I love every second of it.
So is that the same practice that you had from then that you have now? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had two main jobs in my life. For 4 years, I worked at Pizza Hut. You have Pizza Hut on there? Yeah. I was the guy answering the phones, flipping the dough, cutting the slice. I took the Friday, Saturday night shift. So I'd work till 3 a.m. during high school. I had to pay for university. It's expensive, right? Yeah. And then, you worked a bit in university, and then, it's my only dental job I've had.
But you guys have to grind, man. Like, I know that because my cousins have like jobs outside of uni, like trying to quite extensive jobs. They're not like jobs where you're working like really part-time hours. They were working quite a lot of hours to try and make ends meet. Yeah. And it's like it must give you a fire in the belly to make it work, because you've got that pressure almost instantly from a financial perspective.
Oh, totally, man. Like, are you talking like dentistry? It gives you like a drive to work? Oh yeah. No doubt, man. Like I would work as long as my assistants would let me. And I was like trying to incorporate evenings and weekends, and all my assistants were like, no, either you work as hard as you can during your 40 hours, but we're not coming in after. And I said, fair enough. I don't want to lose my staff. But I am a workaholic. My partner hates me. She always, is complaining that I care about dentistry more than I care about her. If I'm not working, I'm working on lectures, or I'm reading these journal articles, going down these spirals. And I don't know, man, like I'm married to my profession. I absolutely love it. And I wouldn't change a thing about it. I'm just so passionate about it. And I just feel so blessed that I found my calling so early in my life, because so many people go decades after school trying to find their passion, trying to find their purpose. And I'm just so lucky I already know my purpose, and like so early in my career.
What's your kind of method, right? So how did you get to the point where we kind of went over it quite quickly, the online course, because setting up an online course is not easy, man. Like there's a massive learning curve, and also so how did you go about that? So what kind of steps did you take?
It was really difficult because I didn't know anything about cameras or computers, really, editing software. I didn't know any of that. I learned it all, and I would stay up so late every night, like just sitting in front of the camera, learning how to talk to a camera. It's not a natural thing, as you know. Like it's It's how do you get excited for no one in front of you? Like, how do you sit here? Because when you're teaching a camera, like, how do you stay excited? How do you stay motivated? And I went through so much trial and error. And the worst part is, like, you can't just talk to a camera. You have to have a script, because if you don't have a script, then you're saying, and nothing flows. And so I'm up all night writing scripts, and then I'd film the next day, or I'd write enough scripts for a month and then film 40 videos at once. And then you go back and you're like, oh shit, I forgot to say this. And then you got to refilm the video. And then you're like, oh, my lighting is off, or there's a flicker in the background, or my sound isn't perfect. And you're like, oh, I want to refilm this video. I thought I already said that. And it's difficult. It's so difficult. It took me a year. I honestly thought my partner was going to break up with me, like, legit. I really did think so. And she even said, she's like, if you ever do this again, I don't think we can be together. And She was serious, because it took so much time. Like, I'd work 40 hours a week, and then I was working on this probably another 40 hours a week for an entire year. I remember during Christmas, like, our whole staff, we take like a week and a half off from like the 22nd to like December 22nd to January 4th. On Christmas Eve, I spent it with my girlfriend, like my partner. December 25th, I came home to my studio to work, and she said, if you ever do that again to me on Christmas, we're done. And I didn't think of it, because I get so like, I'm like, I need to work on my goals. I need to, work on my projects, so that I forget what's going on around me. And that's a huge detriment. Don't get me wrong, but it speaks to how much I wanted to create this for my colleagues. And I just wanted to create something I'd be so proud of.
Yeah, I'm very similar in that respect. Yeah. Because I did the startup practice, and then I've been creating a course. So I've had a kind of first cohort, which is a bit smaller, and I'm shooting the videos, doing the scripts, all of that stuff, and then testing. And then I'm gonna, when I get my studio reader, I'm gonna do it all again.
It's so hard though.
It's a process. You can get it better and better and better. You're like, I can optimize this, I can optimize that, and you also want to put it in a way where the person can actually pick up the lesson. And there's different ways of doing that. There's different strategies to do that. So that's one thing, that you have a lot of video of like clinical cases. So you said it took you a year. Was part of that actually having the clinical cases kind of lined up to help you kind of do it as well? Like how you describe everything, because you've got to stitch all this stuff together, with the visuals as well.
And that's where I had like issues, because I'd be like, oh, I want to talk about this. And then, like, what if I didn't have that patient to talk about that? So I basically made a list of everything I needed, and then just started filming. And, if I could redo that course, I would, and just have different videos. And like, now I'm just like, oh man, I'm so much better at this technique. I wish I showed more of that. And what about this? And what about that? And that's the cool part about our job, is like, we not only evolve in the techniques we use, but we evolve as clinicians. Like something we didn't do 5 years ago, we may do every day now. And I think that's awesome. And it's hard to make a course, and I'm in the middle of making another course right now, and it's very time. I'm doing the other extraction, so I focus on the wisdom teeth. Time to do the other 28. Yeah. I've had a lot of people ask me, and there are other courses out there, and people say, like, you're competing with other people, and that's that's the wrong mentality, man. You are never competing with other people. If you want to do something, you have to do it for yourself. Yeah. I'm making this course for me. Okay. It's making me a better clinician. It's going to allow me to fully understand everything that I'm doing, and it'll allow me to fulfill my purpose of sharing my passion with this world, of allowing dentists to not feel alone, and to realize we are all on our own islands, but we don't have to be. Like, we can all be connected, and I want to be there for people. And nothing makes me happier than getting texts from around the world, like literally throughout the day and throughout the night. I've had to put my phone on silent, but I'll get a text from Australia, and I'll have a dentist saying, hey, I'm having trouble, assessing this tooth. I don't know how I'm going to take it out. And it's just so fulfilling for me to be like, this is all you need to do. This is the complication you're going to run into, and you will be fine. high five, you got this. And then I see a picture of the tooth extracted and like, you know, a happy face emoji, and it makes me feel so good because I helped that person, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like you get better as well. Do you feel like you get better when you're teaching? Because you kind of, you go even more in depth on things, you know, to try and get the best outcomes possible for your students, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I go down these rabbit holes, because you're like, what if that person has the exact same question I do? I need to know the answer. And I find textbooks only tell you so much. And I find journal articles only tell you so much. And it's up to you to piece it together at the end of the day.
It's a very inefficient way of learning as well.
Oh,
you know,
God, yeah.
Going through a journal, God, I mean.
No, because all they do is they just cite other people. And I find, you know, let's be honest, everyone writing a journal has a form of an ego, and they want to disprove other people. And sometimes you're just, all I can hear in my head is two different authors arguing. You know what I mean? Like, this way works better. No, this way is better. And I don't know. It's kind of funny. I always envision that they're having like a rap battle in my head.
That was something I actually wanted to talk to you about is, you know, I saw the "It Was All a Dream" kind of writing on the wall in your practice, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, man. So where did you get that? And do you feel like your practice has elements of your character in it as well?
Oh, totally. I always wanted to have, I was so jealous when after I built my practice, after I bought my practice, it flooded. I would see my other buddies, they build practices or buy practices, and they're gorgeous, like gorgeous. And I was always so jealous of that. And I'm like, you know, one day I'm going to build an extension of my practice and it's just going to be wicked. But I wanted it to be me. And I love, like, ever since I was in grade 9, like I would put rap posters on my wall, and I would cut out magazine articles from like rap magazines. Like I didn't even understand the lyrics. I would just like rap to them. Right. And, I'd put like, there was pictures of Tupac and Biggie on my wall. And I'm sure my dad was like, who the hell are these guys? But anyways, I just loved the music. Like I just loved it. And even to this day, I still listen to the same music I did in grade 9, and I'm almost 40 years old. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how cool would it be if this could be a representation of me? I didn't build a practice for patients. I built it for me because I want to go to work every day. I spend more time in my practice than I do in my home. And I wanted to just be so proud to go to work every day and just love going to work. And so, of course, when you build a new practice, it's an investment. But when people think it's an investment to bring patients, you're thinking about it all wrong. It's an investment for you, because when you are at your best and when you are proud of to be part of a space, you will work so much more and you will get so much more fulfillment out of it. So I know for a fact my patients do not know the quotes on my wall. I know for a fact. Okay, those quotes are on the wall for me. So I have like, "It Was All a Dream" from Biggie, right? And I have "So Fresh and So Clean from Outkast, right? And so many patients are like, "You said clean twice on your poster." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, that's the rap quote." And they're like, "Rap quote?" And like, it doesn't even make sense. And I've like,
I haven't heard of Andre 3000,
Yeah, right? Oh God, yeah. And then like I'm putting another a thing on my wall, you know, started from the bottom. Like Drake, right?
Yeah,
Drake,
and
it's just...
Well, you're Canadian, so you kind of have to have, some Drake on there, don't you?
Totally, man. But to me, I wanted that practice to be me. And I'm still that grade 9 chubby kid with teeth so wide you can drive a truck through it. I'm still that kid, man. And I'm still living my dream. And so it was all a dream. Well, it still is. And that's why I put that on my wall.
That's awesome. How many dentists do you have working with you?
So we have 6 dentists, 10 hygienists. We have 23 operatories.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big practice.
Sounds like a big place.
Yeah, it is a pretty big place. I just do sedation and take out teeth all day and implants and stuff like that. I haven't prepped a crown in 6 years. Oh God, ortho stressed me out. Pedo stressed me out. Man, getting an impression for prosto, like on a lower second molar, on the distal of a lower second molar, trying to get that impression as that thing's bleeding. Oh man, no thank you. Can't do
No,
it, man.
I have to say, like, because me, I'm mostly implants and surgery,
Yeah.
and odd times because I'm one of the principal dentists, you'll get like a crown prep booked in with you that someone else thinks is going to be difficult, and I haven't done it in a while, and I'm like, damn, like, this is quite hard.
Totally, man. And then the patient comes back because they're sensitive, and they're like, let's just take it out.
No, but it gives you a respect where you already see that kind of thing. You're like,
Totally.
oh, right, okay. It's a reminder for you that, damn, there's quite a lot of skill involved in even these things that you kind of forget about, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
For me, my hard procedures are, because I do sedation, patients may be, referred to our office and they're like, hey, they have 9 fillings to do. And I'm like, 9? Do I have to do them? And they're like, yeah, you got to take out 1 tooth and do the 9 fillings. And I was like, oh man. So you got to you're busting out 9 fillings as fast as you can. And these patients are nervous. So they've neglected their teeth. So these fillings are big and it's an ongoing cycle. And it's difficult, man. I hear you. Dentistry's hard.
So,
whoever thought dentistry was easy was not serious or truthful.
So when you started the practice and you bought it, how many dentists did you have working with you then?
There was 4 of us. There's 3 of us. Yeah, there was 4 of us, and the practice was half the size. So in 2009 we bought it. I think there was like 12 operatories, and then there was a pet store next door, and the pet store moved out. And so we built another like 6 or 7 chairs in the pet store. And then as soon as that was ready, we broke down the wall. And then, so then we had, 20 ops or something like that. And then during COVID, the travel agent next door wasn't doing so well, as we can all imagine during COVID.
Yeah.
So I said, listen, is there a way that if I pay for all your renovations, I will pay for every dime of it? Can I have 1,000 square feet and I'll take over the lease and all that stuff? And so she was like, yeah, like they don't need that much space to be a travel agent. It's all on your computer, right? So, and then I built this sedation section of my office, like just my section, and then broke through the wall. And now we have, the practice is a little disjointed because it's so long from like continually doing that, but like we've always gone back and like matched all the decor, painted everything the same color, all the chairs match. Like we really want it to look like a unified practice, and it does.
So how has that build gone over time? Have you had a philosophy of reinvesting yourself in it, or have you allowed the business to grow the business and therefore not taken as much out as you probably could have? Like how have you managed to negotiate that growth over time?
That's a good question. So I haven't taken out a loan since our initial practice loan. And I always let the practice build itself. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to take out more debt because then just interest compounded over time is just wasted money. And so I'd rather just save that money and reinvest it in my own office. I've always thought, no matter how much I complain about it, like the best investment you'll always make is in yourself and in your office. Like you will never complain about ever getting a CBCT machine or switching all your radiographs to digital. And it's mandatory, and it allows you to do so much more. The only investment that I made that I didn't like really was getting a CEREC machine. And some people absolutely love CEREC machines, and all respect to them, but we have to remember, like, I just didn't love it. Like I did the money, of putting $150,000 into a CEREC machine. I never realized that profit, or the return on investment on that. But I see so many people just killing it with CERECs, and they're doing great, and I have full respect for them. But like for me, it was like, if it wasn't an indication for a CEREC, I wouldn't do it. And just because you have a hammer does not mean everything is a nail. And I think that's where a lot of, there's some wish-washy lines on what can be done with it and what shouldn't. But I have all the respect for people that use it a ton every day, and they paid off a machine times 10.
Yeah. So, how has your mindset changed with regards to running a business? And this is something that I find is, you've got a big practice, man, and there's a lot of people working there. So one thing as you scale that I find quite tricky is instilling that working culture, that brand culture that you've got, that identity that you've got into the team, and allowing all of the dentists to kind of operate from that place. Is that how you see it, or is it different?
It's a bit different. I have an office manager, and she takes care of a lot of that stuff, and one of my other partners does all the HR, because running that practice would be horrible if I tried to do it on my own, because I don't, like, at 4:00 or at 5:00 usually, I have to leave because I have to work on my courses, or I have meetings or stuff like that. I don't put as much time as I used to put into it. Instead, I've relied on my partners to really take care of the HR. My job is like the like paying bills and ensuring, taxes and all that kind of stuff are paid. I take the financial side of it, and one of my partners takes the HR. And with the office manager, they're in charge of hiring and ensuring the practice is running smoothly. But it's so incredibly difficult. It's just finding staff and finding great staff and training staff. And, then someone gets pregnant, which is amazing, but, it's difficult to work around, because then they'll be back in a year, and now you have this extra staff person that you don't want to let go because you love them too. You know what I mean? So there's a lot behind it. And then during COVID, like, we have to lay off everyone, but yet, like, what are they going to do? We have to take care of them at the same time, right? So, oh God, that was brutal. I remember getting my visa statement during COVID for $187,000. And we had no patients coming in because we were locked down, right? And I'm like, you can't just call Visa and say, hey, I don't want this anymore. And so here I am. I'm just like, we're at lockdown. We have nothing to do. I'm sweating. I'm in panic because none of us know when we're coming back, right? Here I am. I'm calling like magazine subscriptions to try to cancel them so I can get $48.
How was that? How was that in Canada? So as I understand it, quite strict lockdowns. How long were dentists shut for, and how long did that happen?
Well, we were always, let me take a step back. So in March 2020, there was this dental conference in Canada, and no joke, it was like the best day of my life. And wow. I had 500 people in this lecture room. Like, there was not enough chairs. People were standing on the side. It was just so cool. Like, it was awesome. And then I get home from that conference, turn on the news, and they're like, this conference brought COVID to Canada.
Oh my God.
And then all these patients in my town are like, who is this guy? Like, he's bringing COVID to our town. And they were all like mad at me. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. Like, and I didn't have COVID. I'm sure I did, but I didn't have COVID. Anyway, so I was quarantined, and then they shut everything down. And yeah, we weren't allowed to go in and do work unless it was 100% necessary and considered emergent. So our office works with the hospital in our town. So we did a lot of emergency work during the pandemic, but we didn't have hygienists working. I had one front end. There was 2 dentists. And the only reason there was 2 dentists because we'd be like bored at home. So we'd want to see emergency patients, right? But it was we didn't see very many. It was mostly just phone calls, and they were really strict. Like, we didn't want to play the system or anything like that. It wasn't worth it. But we were shut down for, I don't even know how many, 4 or 5 months, I think. Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult because when we were in that time period, there was a lot of unknowns, Some people were saying, aerosol generating procedures are over.
Oh God.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and depending where you were in Canada, you had to put up walls, hey, in between your operatories. And I know in the UK, you guys have doors on all your operatories, right? Yeah. Here we don't. Here we have open concepts, so we have to barrier everything, and then depending on who came in your practice, if public health tracked them and they had COVID, then your practice was shut down for 2 weeks. And it was just a nightmare. And depending on which public health representative was speaking to you, they could have been super nice, or they could have been the complete opposite. And a lot of them were the complete opposite, and it was tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you start the course, the third molar extraction course, and when did you finish it? Well, finish it or release it?
Yeah. So I started it in, oh God, like right during COVID. And like at the beginning of COVID, I started it, and I started like researching how to make videos. And then it took me a full year. I released it 2021. Yeah, I released it in 2021 after a year of struggle, and then took a break for a couple months, and then I was always trying to like think of what's the next course to make, but I got busy teaching, and I was traveling all around the country teaching, extraction courses, going to conferences, doing a lot of webinars when everything started like coming back up. And now that takes most of my time is just like coming up with conference lectures, because like I don't want to teach the same thing twice. Like I know people will come to many of my lectures, and then I don't want to say the same thing twice, because that's just brutal, right? So I try to include a ton of like humor, like with my mistakes, and like I'll have clinical videos of me messing up, or like me pushing a root tip into a sinus or something like that, right? Or like, pushing a root tip into the submandibular fossa and how I got it out. And that's the stuff I like to teach, because I'm real, and I don't want people to have this false impression that clinicians do not have complications, because we all do. And it's all about talking about the complications and making it okay to have complications, as long as you know how to manage it. But, you're not going to learn how to manage it from a textbook.
You're a very competent, eloquent person.
Oh, thanks, man.
How's that? Yeah, you're welcome. And how has that developed? Do you feel like you've gotten better and better and better as you've been teaching these courses in person? And how have you found public speaking? Is there any anxiety there?
I still remember I was getting this award, this business award, like our office won like the best, customer service award or something in our town. And I've never done any public speaking before. And I was like, yeah, I'll go to the award ceremony. And I didn't even think twice about it. And then like during the award ceremony, I started sweating. And I was like, oh man, we have to go up in a little bit. And like, no joke, from like here all the way down to my waist. And I was wearing like a gray shirt. You know what I'm talking about, man. You wear a gray shirt and you sweat. That gray turns black, right? And
you need a vest underneath, man. You need an old school vest.
Man. I didn't even own a suit jacket, man. Like, and so I go to accept this award, and my shirt is black. And I was, oh God, I still remember that. It was the most embarrassing time ever. I'm getting up in front of like the Chamber of Commerce and like all these, prestigious people. I'm just sweating through my shirt. So yeah, I've gone through this big journey with public speaking, because then when I started teaching, I still sweat. And that's like my tell. And when I'm nervous, I sweat. I make bad jokes and I sweat. And so for the first several years, oh man, I had to buy a suit jacket just to cover up my sweat. And now, I had people say, my dad was like, Nekky, go get Botox in your armpits. You don't sweat as much. And I was like, but like, if I'm not speaking, I don't sweat. Like, you know what I mean? So it was just whatever. And then I guess I started to realize what worked and what didn't. And I started to realize the only thing that works is stories, because that's the only way to connect with people. So I started reading like how to tell a story, how to engage an audience. And it's through stories, man. And if you can learn to tell a story, that's the only way we can connect with people. So that's how I teach, is I teach through stories. I will never have a slide on the screen with, a ton of info, and I will never regurgitate a slide. And when people ask me for my lecture notes, I give it to them, and I'm just like, it's just pictures, man. You're not going to get anything from it. And so that's how I've gone with public speaking. And I'm really lucky, because my girlfriend, my partner, she's an amazing writer, and she's about to get her master's in fine arts or in writing. She's just applied for the program, and she's going to kill it. And she is such a great storyteller. And so I listened to how she told stories and how she writes, and I tried to apply that to dentistry, and that's what got me here so far.
So when you do an event, scripting it, like, so you know the slides, and are you saying like preparation to the nth degree before you go in, or do you kind of allow yourself a bit of room to free flow a bit?
So I've always been good at thinking on the fly, except for like my courses, I have everything scripted. But when I'm teaching, I have the first 2 minutes scripted because I'm nervous. You know what I mean? If I can get the first 2 minutes scripted, I'm good. If I can get that first laugh, I'm good. Do you know what I mean? After that first laugh, I go into freestyle for the rest of the and that's all I do. And like, even if you mix up my slides on me, it doesn't matter because I haven't memorized anything. I am 100% freestyle, but my first 2 minutes have to be scripted. And you know, like on my last lecture, I started off the lecture with saying, you know, the worst patient in the world is always your family, right? And then I go on to show a picture of my dad after I pulled his tooth and his face is swollen, and I said, Papa Jamal doesn't like his son anymore. And everyone just started laughing. And it was just like, as soon as I got that initial laugh out, it was good. You know what I mean? I felt like, okay, I felt comfortable. They accepted me, you know what I mean? And then I went to go to talk about swelling medication and corticosteroids and what we can do to reduce swelling and why that happened in the first place. And that's how I lecture, is I lecture from clinical examples of complications, and it's not errors. Like, we're all going to have patients that swell, but we have to know how to manage that. Right. And so that's how I got into, public speaking and all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's quite an interesting niche that you've got there, because there's a lot of people in the industry, which you've highlighted, that are very egotistical and want to portray an image of, I'm the best. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, it's not really realistic, is it? So it seems like, and it sounds like you've identified that there is a gap there of like just real stories of clinicians who've had issues, and then you've moved to fill that space. So that's really cool, man. Yeah.
I wish I was great, but I look at my implant x-rays every day. Are they as straight as they should be? Nah, man, come on. You do implants every day. Are they Instagram worthy? No, like, they're not.
Oh,
right?
definitely not. No.
But dude, come on, man. That's real life though, man. Like, the bone isn't perfect. You didn't get torque. You know, maybe you had to put it in at like, you know, a 3 degree off angle so you could get it in the best position. It's still going to be a screw attained with an angulated screw channel. Like, it will be fine, but you know, you don't want to get torn apart on Instagram, so you don't post it. And I refuse to take part of this whole Instagram sharing of cases. I just do not care about it. I do not have time for it. I would rather celebrate failures and lift the people up around me rather than have people commend me for taking out a hard tooth, because all that stuff is fake, man. Like, it's not for me.
Just chasing dopamine, isn't it?
Oh, my man. Yeah. Yes, I talk about that all the time. Every single like you get, it's a little dopamine hit, right? Yeah.
Well, I've actually gotten into dopamine detoxing.
Oh, my man. Tell me.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting space, because you start to see, actually, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you're like, wow, like, our society now is really geared towards lots of little doses of dopamine. And it's very difficult to step out of that, I've found as well.
Totally. I 100% hear you, because there's this quote I tell myself all the time, and it's, if you live for the cheers, you'll die by the booze. And when anyone ever tells you, Nekky, you're the best, Nekky, you know, you've made such a great course, Nekky, come speak here, I loved your lecture, man, boom, dopamine hits every time. Within the second, in milliseconds, someone questions you, or they say, I've heard better, I've seen better. Like, you know, you see someone playing on their phone during your lecture, those little tiny boos that get you, you'll only remember those points, and you're going to let that define you for the rest of your life. So if you live for the cheers, you'll die by the booze. And I totally mean that. And you cannot let external validation define who you are. Otherwise you're done.
Well, that's an incredibly good point, because it's a trap we all get into, is giving other people the power over how we feel. And that's one way you can do it, is with chasing that kind of dopamine hit of approval from other people.
Because you give people with the least amount of information about you the most amount of power.
Yeah.
You attend my lecture, you tell me, or you play on your phone the whole time, you walk out of there, all I see is you playing on your phone. Oh man, this guy sucks. And then 100 people could come up to you and say, Nekky, sign my textbook. You know what I mean? And I don't even think about it because I'm like, what? This one guy was playing on his phone. He probably didn't even care about me or my lecture. I died by the booze, man. And so you can't let those things get to you. They're not real. As fast as people come to congratulate you, they forget about you tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, you can't let external validation define you. And that's why when I say, like, I make the courses for me, is because it's the journey of making the course. It's me wanting to learn more. It's me wanting to be the best I can be. I'm not making it for other people. Of course, it's nice when other people, you know, want to take the course and you feel good about yourself. But at the end of the day, it's my journey, you know?
You know, that's a very good point. And I think that it actually resonates with me a bit because even with the business that I created with my wife, there's a lot of me in it. And it's almost like, it is a passion project. It is you, really. That's why you're doing it. It's not really for someone else, because there might be a net positive for other people around, but the core driving force behind it is likely going to be, internally, it's for me, isn't it? Yeah. That's an interesting point.
It is, right? What's your business?
So obviously I've got a practice. We set up in May 2021. So that's doing well, thankfully. And I had the practice called New Dental, and always had this tagline, New Dental, the new way of doing dentistry. It was like a play, and it was all about. And I've got like gold graffiti on the walls of the Bushido code, because I love the kind of old school samurai culture. So just like old meditation, Zen feeling, you know, incense in the practice, just very. You know, it's a representation of basically who I am. Yeah, cultural appropriation, but still who I am.
I absolutely love that, man. Good for you, dude.
Yeah.
Is your wife a dentist as well?
Yes, she is. Yeah,
oh,
she
nice.
is. Yeah, so she does a lot of Invisalign and stuff, which is quite funny. Man. So she handles that side of things. Yeah, yeah. She's more patient than I am. Let's put it that way.
How is it bringing work home?
You know what? That's an interesting one. I think we struggled with that for the first year, because you'd find that you'd always be talking about either problems in the practice or dentistry. And we had to have conversations where we're like, look, we need to kind of separate this out a little bit, because you just get sick of it. Now that we're at a point where we've been married for over a decade now, so we know each other really well. Usually we'll be synchronized on our thoughts on something, so that we don't really need to talk about it that much, and we can kind of just engage with the kids and be present. I think that's something like, you know, when you were talking about getting obsessed with courses and stuff, I'm the same way. Like, I'll be working 7 o'clock, nearly 8 o'clock now. I'll probably working until 11 doing my course stuff. But it's important to get those little reminders from people around you, like, oh, yo, you need to apportion your time a bit better, man.
Totally. Tell me about your course. What course are you doing?
So yeah, I set up a startup practice. So I feel like a lot of dentists here get in a trap of working for someone else when they've got the potential to not work for someone else and actually run their own business. And what holds them back is that there's this kind of insiders club where everyone feels like it's quite a massive jump for them to make. And I feel like my course is like a ladder that is going to help you get to that point. So just taking all my learnings really from building a brand and all of the other stuff, all the red tape, all the bureaucracy you have to deal with, and designing and all this other stuff, and just helping associates, normal dentists, to actually go out there and start up their own businesses. Because here, I don't know what it's like there, but here we've got quite a lot of private equity influx. Yeah. So that's raised the prices quite significantly if you want to try and buy a practice. So the other way in, apart from taking massive bank loans, is, you know, I can help someone set up for under 300 grand. So they can be in a situation where they could be building a business that's going to be worth in excess of 1.5, 2 million within 3 years if they do everything right. Yeah.
Wow.
You know, so that's what we've done. So I just hope to help people replicate that. But it's quite difficult to articulate because there's a lot of mindset stuff. and do you find that with your courses is that often it's just the confidence, and you need to build that kind of confidence and that belief in yourself. Do you find that as well? Because you interact with so many dentists.
Totally. I have so many things to say about that. First of all, congratulations. That is a course that is not taught. And the fact that you've done it so successfully and you're willing to share is absolutely amazing. So I commend you for that. But you're totally right. Everything we do is mindset. And unless you're willing to learn from your mistakes and willing to learn from your failures, you will fail, because at the end of the day, what you tell yourself is your reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether you think,
that's so true, man.
Whether you think you can or whether you think
internal
you can't.
narrative. Yeah.
Right? You can. Yeah. That's your reality, right? And absolutely. So, it's, if you surround yourself with the right people, if you surround yourself with the right advisors, that's so easy to say. But at the end of the day, it's you know what I mean? So it's all mindset. It's all self-talk. And
we've got to start. I think the starting point for that, Nekky, is humility.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you've got to start with a bit of humility and say, look, I can learn from other people, and they have value to give me, and if you're not in that situation, if you're letting your ego get overinflated, because, we're in a very egotistical industry. So it's a very easy trap to fall into, but you can find that there's a lot of good people around us still in this industry. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who are willing to help, like you making your course, help me in England.
No, man, I totally hear you. Like, I find, I live in a rural area. I feel like I wish I had some more people to help me early in my career. It would have helped me avoid a lot of mistakes with money and maybe other business stuff. But finding good mentors early on, just like you're creating that community, you're basically being that mentor to these people. That's what's going to help accelerate their path. And in any field, whether it's third molars or whether it's business startups or composite fillings, having a mentor can really speed up or accelerate your journey.
What's the biggest con to setting up a course?
Time.
Yeah.
Time. It's the opportunity cost of your time. And, right. If I wasn't at my course, if I wasn't writing scripts for my course, what would I be doing with my time? Would I be, spending more time with my partner? Yeah. Would I be spending more time at the office? Hell yeah. Would I have more time for vacation? Would I be less stressed out? Would I have more time to dive into other non-dental topics? Would I be able to socialize more? Like, I'm not going to be, I can't lie. Like, my friend circle is like 3 people. I don't like, if I didn't have this course, oh man, I'd be the most social guy in the world, but I just don't have time for that. And I see that, you know what I mean? Like, my relaxed time is none. But the fact that I love this so much allows me not to burn out. And I haven't burnt out yet. I came close a couple times, but like, I know when it's fun and when it's not. And if you're doing it for you and you're not having fun, take a break.
That's a great piece of advice as well. There's lots of nuggets of wisdom you're dropping here. One thing I wanted to ask you as well is what's quite unique about your course is that, like you said, people from Australia messaging you. Me, I messaged you on Instagram after I took a tooth out. It said, this is, in England. How did you manage to propagate the course out? Did it happen organically because it was valuable, or did you put some push behind that to spread it into different markets?
My advertising budget has been 0, and it will always be 0. I will never promote my course. If you go on my, even on my Instagram feed, I don't even talk about it. I have it under my bio as Third Molars Online, but I don't, I've never advertised my course. I don't know how to market. I don't care to market. If I have to sell you something, the course isn't fulfilling my objectives. And so at the end of the day, I'm doing it for me. Whether, it reaches 1 million people or it reaches 5, I'm cool. It's success for me either way.
That's amazing, man. Because it's proliferated out like quite widely, or really widely. So it's cool that's happened organically. That's actually really amazing.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do.
No, man. And I don't, I honestly, if I knew how to create an Instagram ad, maybe I would, but I don't. And that whole sector just frustrates me, is like, you know, having to sell yourself to someone. And when people text me, they say, why should I buy your course? And I said, maybe the course isn't for you, because I don't care. At the end of the day, if you want to learn from me, if you want to learn from my mistakes, I'm more than happy to teach you. But I'm not here to sell you something. I'm not here to make money. I donate a ton of the money that the course makes to, you know, countries in developing countries, building water systems, providing dental care. I donate it to my own public library. Like, I'm not doing this for money. I've worked for money. You know what I mean? Like, this to me is just fun. And this is my purpose, and I'm fulfilling my purpose, whether, you know, it is the most successful course in the world or if people call it shit. I had fun doing it. It was my journey, and this is where it got me.
What's next for you, Nekky? What's the future hold for Nekky? Are you the type of person who writes down goals and things about what you want to achieve?
Yeah, I write down goals. I don't look at them enough, though. For me, I'm just, I don't want to stop doing what I'm doing because I'm having so much fun. I've learned to not say no to things, to, you know, accept new opportunities, find, you know, new people to talk to, go to different conferences. For me, that's so much fun, is just connecting with dentists. That's what this course has allowed me to do, is just connect with dentists. What's next for me is extractionmasterclass.com. I'm in the middle of making it right now. It's going to be third molars online times 10. And wow. I've put so much time in there already, and I can't wait to share it with the world, because it allowed me to be a better dentist too. And, you know, you do it for your patients, because my patients benefit from it, whether I can get teeth out faster or I can manage a different complication I didn't even know patients were having, or prevent complications from even happening. I think that's where it's at, and it was really cool. I was at the Canadian Dental Student Conference, like the largest dental student conference in Canada, and I was the keynote speaker. And people would just come up to you and they're like, "Oh, you're that Nekky guy," and I was like, how the hell did you even, like, no one follows me on Instagram. Like, there's these dentists out there with, like, you know, 100,000 followers. And I'm like, here's Nekky with, like, I don't know, 2,000 followers. Like, I don't even put any time into it. But, like, people find you. And I honestly think, dude, if, like, people will find you too. All you need is the right intention and a good heart. And I don't care what people say. You can market as much as you want, but people see right through that. If you don't have good intentions from the outset, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, and what I was going to ask you as well is, I'm conscious I don't want to take too much of your time. No, man,
dude, this is the best part of my day. I'm just writing. I'm getting ready for lectures. I'm still talking about articaine in my lecture right now. So it's.
When do you think the course is going to be ready? Am I putting the pressure on you with that question?
Oh man, every month I say, like, oh man, it'll be ready in 6 months, and that was 6 months ago. So my problem is I don't know when to stop. Like, I don't know when to stop writing scripts, and I don't know.
It's quite an exhaustive. That's quite a broad thing that you're going into, really, isn't it? It
is, yeah, because you don't know where to stop. So, like, you know, I'll start talking about my favorite ways to give local anesthetic techniques, and then I'll go into the types of local anesthetics, and then I'll go into what does it mean when you give your patient a Zing, and then I'll go into how often does that cause paresthesia, what causes paresthesia, what is it about that, and I'll just keep on going down and down and down and keep on making videos, and you can talk about that forever. So you know, I'm starting to learn when to stop, and when I start repeating myself is when to stop. Yeah, but no, it's cool. Like my favorite part about it is always, just like the third molar course, that my favorite part about that course is case selection. And that's the most common part that people fast forward over, and they don't understand that's the most important part. And so with this course, it's still case selection, because you only run into problems when you pick the wrong cases. And so if you learn what to watch out for, you don't run into issues, right? And so that's what I like to preach. That's what I like to teach. And that's what I like to tell myself too, like when I'm writing these courses.
Well, I think we all fall prey to that. And I think that is a great point. And I think another thing is, a lot of young dentists now that are coming up, they're a little bit unfortunate in my eyes because they're getting exposed to this Instagram world of dentistry.
Yeah.
And they're believing that they can push into these arenas that they really have they don't have the ability to do it. And they seem to see, because I've seen it, I can do it. But I appreciate that they're confident, but sometimes it's misplaced. How do you feel about that? The Instagram culture?
I find it tough. Okay, here, there's a perfect example here. So I teach beginner, like a early mentorship course for implants with my buddy in British Columbia. And he's a phenomenal implant dentist. He brings me along for the ride because I think he just likes my energy. So anyways, we teach this course.
So there's more to it than that, Nekky.
And I was talking to one of the participants. He just finished the course. He's on his third implant. And his third and fourth implant were immediate implants for a bridge. And so you teach, you do your implants. How many implants did you do before you did immediates?
What about 100?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even for me, it's probably like 400. Because I was like, man, there's immediates are a whole different beast. But you go on Instagram, what do you see? Only immediates. Yeah. That's all you see.
To be honest, in my practice, Nekky, I don't really do immediates that much.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you.
Point. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you. We're the only ones out. You know what? You know why we don't share our stuff on Instagram? Because people would boo us because it's not sexy. It's realistic. It's not sexy. And in my head, I'm like, if I want this implant to last for 20 years, what does an extra 3 months matter? I'm like, just take the tooth out, do a socket graft, let it heal, whatever. I'll have a stable base of bone. I don't need to stress it out. It's an extra 3 or 4 months, man. But
I find that your placement when you're doing immediate is suboptimal,
exactly.
because it's never going to be right completely because you're in a suboptimal situation, aren't you? So I'm completely with you on that. The reason I said 100 is, to be honest, I never do them. I never really do immediate. The only time I do immediate is when I do all on 4.
Yeah.
But then it's indicated because otherwise they're going to be stuck with a denture that's removable, that's moving around on top, so you'd rather have a stable base. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But like, so I totally hear you. But like this guy is, what is fourth and fifth implant is an immediate. And I'm like, I commend you for your confidence to do that. And, time will tell if you pulled it off. But like, I look at it and I'm like, is it perfect? And you're like, well, no, what would you have changed? And then he says, both the angles. I said, so wouldn't you have waited just, 3 more months and then you could have got it the way that you wanted it to? But that's not sexy, man. All these new grads are seeing is like straight up Instagram, and they're saying immediate here, and they're like immediate sinus lift with a connective tissue graft. And you're like, man, come on. Why? Like, I'm sure there's people out there that do it quite well, but not in these hands. I got meat paws for hands here, man. I'm not doing anything. Take out a couple teeth, but I'm not doing all that fine, sexy work, right?
I mean, that fine soft tissue work, man. I've got respect for those guys, man.
It's amazing, man. Yeah. I can't even see a 6-0 suture, and these guys are using it as their main suture, man. Like, can you start making that thing like neon blue so it stands out?
Yeah, I get you completely on that. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I don't get, touch wood, I don't get many implant failures, and I think that comes down to what you just mentioned, which is case selection.
Totally.
And not trying to do stupid stuff like immediates when you don't need to do them. Totally. Look, if a patient's not going to go with you because you're not going to do an immediate and somebody down the road is, let it be somebody else's problem. Do you know what I mean? Wow.
Totally. Because you know what, dude? You will never lose sleep over treatment you did not provide.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Yeah. The more you push the envelope, the less sleep you get, man. And I'm telling you, if you care about your patients, the less sleep you're getting. And I can't even tell you how many times a night I wake up thinking, I wonder how they're healing. And then I call them in the morning and they're like, you did that 3 months ago. Why are you still calling me? And I'm like, because it can still fail. You know what I mean? And, pushing the envelope is just so unnecessary, like so unnecessary. If I'm not going to do an immediate on my own dad, why am I going to be pushing the envelope on you? And, I find the older I get, the more I refer out for, extremely risky third molar cases. Like I tell people right off the bat, just because I'm teaching you how to take out third molars does not mean I'm taking all of them out myself, because it's all about case selection. The less I think about that case at the end of the day, the better off I'm doing.
There's another thing I say. I completely agree with that. There's another thing I say to some of my associates, to say to them, look, obviously I can take this tooth out, but why do I need to be the bad guy?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I want them to be at this practice long term, right?
Exactly.
I don't want them to have a bad experience, and I know the amount of trauma that's going to be caused in taking this tooth out, that I'm going to be the bad guy. Do you know what I mean?
It's all about relationships, man. If you have a distoangular, full bony impaction on a 50-year-old, bye-bye. I don't need that stress. Yeah, of course I can take the tooth out. But for the next 6 weeks, while you're dealing with pain and bleeding and soreness, and then an eventual dry socket or possible paresthesia at the age of 50, like, who wants to deal with that? You get paid the exact same amount if it's 50 years old or 17 years old. I'd rather take out the 17 years old, refer on the 50-year-old, and not deal with any of the post-op problems. And that way I can be a hearing board for that patient when they come back saying how hard it's been. And thank God I don't have to do that again. Now let's work on something else.
Absolutely.
And they
it's not really a practice builder, in my opinion.
No, it's not, man.
It's not.
And that's the best part about being a GP, is we can refer those cases on, man. Like, people don't understand that. Just because you can take a tooth out does not mean you have to. Right? You got to have that relationship with that patient, because the more you stress about it, the worse it's going to be, right?
But that's something I've learned as well over time, is not just the case selection, right? Selecting your patient.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I learned that from one of my mentors. He likes doing psychiatric evaluations before he does implant work. Seriously. And it's the most awkward document to go through ever. I get my nurse to do it. I'm like, I can't go through this. It's too awkward. But if you get below a certain score, he's in his head. He's thinking, nah, I'm not going to treat him. I can't bothered. I just can't bothered with the hassle.
I 100% respect that, man. I have this one patient. I did an implant bridge for her. And then 2 years later, she comes back just swearing at my front end. Oh, my implant's broken. I wasted all this money. That doctor doesn't know what he's doing. Blah, 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 blah. And what did she break? The tooth behind it, right? And then I'm like, your implants are fine. It's the tooth behind it. Oh, well. And then the tone immediately changes, right? And you're just like, why did I even accept you as a patient? If you're not willing to work with me, like, this is a relationship. Do you ever think I'm going to do anything for you again? Like, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this relationship isn't what it should be, and there's plenty of dentists out there you can go see. But like, I find you're right. The older I get too, the more I'm saying no to patients, because, I hate to say it, when you do an implant on them, you can get them to sign whatever you want, but at the end of the day, you're getting married. You know what I mean? And
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like, it doesn't matter.
People go on about these consent forms and stuff.
It doesn't mean anything.
I'm like, it's the conversation with the patient, how they understand that conversation, which really matters.
Yeah.
Right? If you've not had an in-depth conversation, ask them to repeat it back to you, so you understand that they understand what you're doing and what the risks are. What's a piece of paper?
Oh, totally.
It just makes you feel better, doesn't it? It's not reality. Yeah.
And all patients here is their next question for you. They're not hearing the answer to your question. They're hearing their next question for you. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
So they're not listening half the time anyway. So I like that. Get them to repeat it back to you. But I find with social media, everything's just getting more difficult to do anyway. Everyone does want that immediate in situations where it's not immediate, and your patient's a diabetic, and they're a smoker, and they have heart issues, and they're on blood thinners, and they want that all done at the same time.
Yeah. So in terms of young dentists, what do you think the biggest piece of advice for them would be then?
Learn your craft. Learn your craft. I was on another podcast and I shared this story. I was at the dental student conference, and I don't drink alcohol, but I drink a lot of coffee. Like, I'm addicted to coffee. I just love this stuff, right? So I'm drinking coffee and drinking water, and I'm speaking, and I go to the bathroom, and this guy beside me looks up at me, and he's just like, "Hey, how much did you make last year?" And I just look at him, and I'm like, keep your eyes on your own. You know what I mean? But then it just speaks to the fact that these young grads aren't chasing the right thing. You know what I mean? they're so focused on how many practices they're going to get or how much they're going to make or, how they're going to pay off their debt, what kind of car they're going to drive, what kind of house they're going to buy. They're focusing on all the wrong things. They're like, Nekky, I want to own 5 practices, in the next 4 years. And I'm like, do you even know how to do an MOD? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you don't. When you graduate from school, you know just enough not to kill someone. And I'm dead serious. You know just enough not to kill someone. Okay. And you're going to learn your craft when you graduate through all your continuing education. So until you invest in yourself, don't even think about opening up, another location or trying to do that. Because, if you go to the guy down the street that's been working for 35 years and can do dentistry with his eyes closed, and yet you're, your first month out, you're charging the exact same fee for that work. Why would the patient ever want to come to you? You haven't mastered your craft. Right. So you should learn to master your craft before jumping into, the business side of dentistry.
And the way I'm going to end the podcast, Nekky, is just...
We can't end now. What do you mean, man? We're just getting started.
Well, okay. This might be a long answer, though. So we're in a world right now where AI has really come to the fore. Digital dentistry is moving forward. I'm not a massive fan, to be honest, but...
All right.
Yeah, but like, where do you see it going? Like, how do you feel like technology is going to impact our industry? I'm very conscious that you're in North America as well, so you're probably seeing much more of it than we are.
Yeah. So, everything, it's funny because for me, I think AI is going to, like, I already know it already is. Like, it's looking at radiographs, telling what's high risk, what's not high risk, right? It's determining where caries are. It's determining treatment plans based off your x-rays. It's in the prostate world. I think that's where we'll see the most amount of, AI influence is smile building and what your smile is going to be. In the orthodontic world, exact same thing. I think that's where it's going to impact the most, like, especially with all these new resins coming out for 3D printers and on that side of the world, I see it really taking over prosto, but at the end of the day, a robot's not going to be taking out your wisdom tooth. People are still going to get cavities. I don't care if, you can put a new tooth back in their mouth by growing it in a petri dish. It still has to get, rotten one way or another. Pepsi's not going anywhere. So I don't know. I don't see my job ever being in jeopardy. I see us having more tools in our tool belt to make the best decision for our patients. And that's what I'm excited for is, really determining, like looking at an x-ray and know for a fact, hey, I should do a coronectomy here and leave this tooth rather than taking the risk and taking the tooth out. Because I have that I have that conversation all the time with patients, especially when they're over 25, as you know from my course. Like, if you're over 25, you're at higher risk of everything, right? So do you want to take on that wisdom tooth extraction with these high risk scenarios? I'm not saying you're going to get numbness. I'm just saying that there's a risk of it. And so in those situations, a lot of patients are saying, okay, well, cut my tooth in half, leave the roots there, take the crown out, right? And so it'd be nice to know from an AI point of view, hey, this is super high risk, and it just gives you more confidence when you're making your decisions.
And I wonder whether that will actually, from a legality standpoint, help as well. Yeah. That's
totally
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. If the robot says, don't take out this tooth, and then you do, now you're the idiot, right? Because all of a sudden we're going to be trusting Chat GPT to, write our consent forms and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah. Awesome.
I'm actually interested to see what happens on the political arena from having AI write every amount of media out there. You know what I mean? Like, because AI already writes a lot of our media and a lot of the information we consume. What's going to happen when computers are writing that data? Like, how's it going to target different people? I think, the social science part of it, I find really interesting. Well, I think we're just getting started.
They've got access to quantum computers and stuff like at Google and certain governments. I think China's got one and the US government's got one. And you wonder, like, with AI, with that kind of technology, they understand how to manipulate humans through social media.
Yeah.
But they understand that to an nth degree that we can't actually comprehend.
Yeah.
Because they've been doing it and programming it for so long with social media. So you strike on a very interesting point there, because I looked at an article recently and it was showing that ChatGPT, they asked it an opinion on a matter, and it gave a very much government main body response, not necessarily what the evidence base was saying. And I was like, that's very interesting. So is it programmed by people, and therefore, even though it's seen as an authority, is the inherent bias of the person programming it going to be an issue? Because when you look at that text, you think, oh, this is the answer. It's giving me the answer, right?
Yeah, totally.
But it's not necessarily true, you know?
No, man, you're going to trust the computer, but yet, we tell everyone not to trust everything you read online, but now people are going to be trusting it,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's actually really quite dangerous, and I'm interested to see where it goes, and I think in our later lifetime, it'll really mess things up. So now let's live it up while we can.
Yeah. Oh, expand the practice.
Yeah.
Nekky, it's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much for your time.
Dude, congratulations on your practice, on your course. I can't wait to help out any way I can. And thank you so much for having me on your show. This is honestly one of my favorite podcasts, because it was just real. Like it was just wicked, man. So I appreciate that.